Hello my Luminites, it is Ivy and welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, hello! My name is Ivy, also known as Intuitive Ivy M, here on this channel and on calendly.com/intuitivivm, where I do tarot and oracle card readings. So if you guys would like a live voice reading with me, please consider checking out that link down below. Also, I am the co-founder of an amazing spiritual business company called Unearthly Treasures, where we sell things such as earrings for those that dare to be unique and different, as well as spell jar necklaces, essential oils, mist spray, as well as keychains that correspond with your favorite deities, and we actually just launched candles. So if you guys would love to check us out, we're at unearthlytreasures.com. So today I have something different and new for you. I have my tarot collection, as you can see here. We're going to start all the way from the top and work our way downwards. So this is all the tarot decks that I have, not the oracles. That is going to be a separate video just because it would take too much time to do both in one video. So this is going to be all of my tarot, and I'm going to go in depth into each and every tarot deck, give you a little bit of an overview, and flip through every deck and share my thoughts with them. So here is my tarot collection. Okay, so we're going to get started with the first deck, and this is the Modern Witch deck. So this one I'm not going to go too into detail about just because I have a whole other separate review about this deck. But this is a deck, this is literally my favorite tarot deck out of all of them. The thickness of these cards, the etchings, it's just a beautiful, overall well-made deck. The cards are so thick. I love like the sheenness of it. It makes it so easy to shuffle, and as you can see, the pictures are very beautiful. It literally shows just like female power, like all the pictures are just like women of different colors, sizes, and I love it because I relate to it. I love it because I see women of my skin color, of my body type, and that's why I was so obsessed with this deck. And plus on top of that, it doesn't stray away from the Rider Waite too much, other than the fact that it's just like all like females, which I thought was really awesome. So the next deck that we're going to go over is the Secrets of the Tarot deck. Now this is a deck that I actually got at Five Below. So this was like a $5 deck. And you can tell that it was a $5 deck because the cardstock is very thin and very flimsy. It was very cheaply made. You can easily tell it's like cheap material. That being said, this is a deck that I honestly don't reach for often at all, if ever, which sucks because the illustrations are actually really pretty. If you take a look at the cards here, it's pretty much like a more realistic looking version of the Rider Waite. But I don't use it because of like the descriptions at the bottom. I like to use, because I already know what the cards mean by the book, but I like to use my intuition sometimes as well, and it's hard to do that and can be a little bit distracting when it basically gives you like subtitles at the bottom. But however, if you're a beginner, I would highly recommend this deck, even though the cards are very flimsy. It's only $5 and it's honestly a really good study tool when learning the tarot. So had I found this when I was barely learning, I would have probably used it a lot more. The next deck that we have here is the Good Karma Tarot. Now, this is a deck that I recently found at Barnes & Noble, and I actually really like this deck. It's very simplistic. Like, look at the backings. The backings are really cute. They're like this really yellow floral pattern. You can tell just by the back that it's like a very light-hearted, light deck. Nothing that's going to scare anyone off if you do a reading or so. The cards, the sides are, as you can see, that it's pretty thick. It's not too flimsy. It's not the thickest. And then it has that like shiny texture, which makes it really easy to shuffle. So as you can see, the illustrations are really cute. They're very, I don't know how to explain it, just like really cartoonish. It gives me that like school type of cartoon vibe. I don't know why I said school type of cartoon vibe. Just like what you see in like, you know, like back in like elementary school, and you would open up your like little language arts books. Like these are the type of illustrations you would find, and so I guess it's kind of nostalgic for me in a sort of way, which is probably why I enjoy the deck so much. But this is another deck that has people of all shapes and colors, and people with tattoos, as you can see, people with like different colored hair, another girl with a tattoo on her back, and I really connected with this deck because of that as well. So it's the nostalgia and that. So yeah, so this was another deck that I really enjoyed. Alright, so the next deck that we have here is the Everyday Witch Tarot. This is one of the oldest tarot decks that I have. I love this deck. It's so cute. It has like such like Halloween-ish vibes. I mean, like just look at the back. The back is so cute with like the little broom and the hat and the kitty. I love it so much. And then the cards are a little bit more on the thinner side. It has that shiny texture again, so very easy to shuffle. This is a deck that's like fully illustrated, fully colored and illustrated. As you can see, the illustrations are beautiful. There's so much detail that goes into each and every card. And I love the fact that the major arcana is as detailed as the minor arcana is, because oftentimes when you get a deck, they put a lot of work into the major arcana, but when it comes to the minor arcana, like the suits of like swords, cups, all of that stuff, they tend to lack a little bit, and sometimes they might even be a little bit pippish where they just put like 3 swords, 4 swords. So I love the fact that they kept going to detail with this deck. So this is again one of my favorite decks and one of the first decks that I received. The next tarot deck that we're going to talk about is the Muse Tarot. So this is again one of the first decks that I got. This is a deck that, as you can see, the cards are pretty thin. This one doesn't have that like shiny texture. It has more of like a smoothest texture. Still, it's still very easy to shuffle the cards. Now, this deck is very different from any other deck that I own. It has this like combination of like animated cartoony drawings mixed with like real life people. This is another deck that again shows a lot of diversity. However, I don't reach for this deck often. It's really pretty and I really like it. However, for some reason, I don't use it that often. I don't know why. I like the deck a lot. I feel like it has a lot of depth to it, but I just don't find myself reaching for it so often. As you can see, the muses, the pages are called the muses here, and they're like, you tilt them to the side and they're like this beautiful horizontal drawing. So yeah, so that's the Muse Tarot. So this next one, this is another deck that I wish I used more. I love this deck. I love the illustrations. This is another one that I feel like I need to put it right in front of me just because I have so many tarot decks. The cards are not the thickest cards, but they're not the thinnest either. This one, again, has that shiny texture, which makes it this one, I feel like this one might be a little bit harder to shuffle, but not the hardest. It's not like the cards stick together or anything. I've used this deck a few times, and the readings have always been very accurate. This is just one, I mean, I love Alice in Wonderland, so I literally have no excuse not to be using this deck. It's just, I don't know why. Like, I feel like I just need to put it right in front of my face so that I can use it more often. So this next deck here, this is one that I don't reach for that often. This is just one that I use strictly like when I'm doing readings for people who have like deceased pets or deceased dogs. That's when I often reach for this deck. The cardstock, again, not the thinnest, not the thickest. It has that, again, that like shiny-ish texture, and the bottom where you see, like, as you can see, it has like a little gold reflection to it, which I thought was really cute. This is a deck that is very different because it's just all about dogs, and it depicts dogs in like all these different situations, but as if it was like their own little world. It was so cute. Like, this deck is so cute, and I love how detailed I could get when I'm doing a deceased pet reading, because I've literally have been able to describe a dog that has passed away without even seeing his picture, just because of this deck. So it's amazing the readings that you can do with this deck when you're trying to contact deceased pets. I really, really love this deck for that. Other than that, though, I don't really touch this deck, even though it is a very stunning deck. I use it strictly for these type of readings. So this next deck, I think it's called like the Golden Art Nouveau Tarot, something like that. This is a deck that I got on in one of the monthly subscription boxes. This is basically like the Rider Waite, but with like more gold accents to it, and it's a really pretty deck. I mean, just look at how stunning it is to look at. This is a deck that I actually do reach for quite often, actually. So just look at it. Like, I love the colors of it. This is a new deck, so I can't tell you if the gold like comes off or anything like that, because I only had it for a few months now, but so far I haven't had any problems with it. Of course, I don't casino shuffle my cards. I'm not sure if it would be an issue if you do casino shuffle your cards, but so far it's been working pretty well for me. So the next deck here is called the Urban Tarot. This is a tarot deck that is a lot bigger, as you can see, than the standard tarot deck. It's a little bit thicker and a lot longer. So these cards are actually pretty hard to shuffle. The card stock is a little bit more on like the flimsier side, but not too flimsy. This one again has the more like smooth texture to it. It's hard to shuffle because of how huge they are, doing like the gypsy shuffle and all that. But this deck, this is one that I would reach for often when I first got it. Now I don't reach for it as often. It just has like, it's the Urban Tarot, so it has a very modernized feel to it, as you can see. Like the Two of Cups, it's people meeting at like a coffee shop. But like, I don't know, I just couldn't get that into it now. I don't know, it has a more like negative, not negative, but like, I don't know, it just, the vibe isn't, I'm just not vibing with this one right now, so that's why I haven't used it as often as I did. This next deck here is a deck that I was super excited for. This is the Nightmare Before Christmas deck. This is a deck that I waited so long to get. Just look at the back. The back, it has this like haunted mansion looking back to it, which is honestly really cool because, you know, Jack takes over the haunted mansion during Christmas and Halloween at Disneyland or Disney parks. The cards are very thick, and it has, again, that smooth texture to it. This one is a little bit harder to shuffle, but again, not the hardest to shuffle. So I really like these cards. Like, the illustrations are absolutely beautiful. They stuck more to like the Tim Burton-ish illustrations. If you guys read the Nightmare Before Christmas book with Tim Burton's illustrations, it looks a little bit more like that than the actual movie. But I really like this deck. Like, the major arcana, they put such detail into it, and then the suits cards, they put much detail into it. The only complaint that I have with these cards is that they did get a little bit lazy. I feel like when it came to some of the cards, there was so much that could have been done with like the Three of Swords, or needles, I should say here. Like, here you can see like that they stuck to like very simplistic illustrations, and they could have done so much more with it, especially for somebody that's a really big Nightmare Before Christmas fan, especially for people that are really big Tim Burton fans. They didn't put enough detail in this for me, to my liking, as I should say. Like, they could have done so much more. Like, there was so much potential there, and they just didn't do it. So this next tarot deck, this is called the Everyday Enchantment Tarot. This deck is freaking huge. As you can see, that's a standard size tarot versus this deck. This deck is huge. It has that smooth texture. The cards are very, very thick, but the fact that they're so big and thick and smooth, it's literally really hard to shuffle just because of the texture. And then on top of that, because of the size, it makes it really, really hard, even harder to shuffle. The back is very detailed, as you can see. The illustrations has those very like more like old school looking illustrations, you know, something that you would find from like, I don't know, more, it's just like more like old looking illustrations, but very cute. I love the fact that like just how not realistic, but I guess more modern that more modern these cards are compared to like all the other decks. For example, I like how like for example the Six of Wands, you can see this person like going through a championship, and it basically makes everything, it's really easy to read when you're doing it intuitively as well as by the book. But I like this deck, reading this deck intuitively because of how modern it is, and you can get a completely different, more detailed and in-depth deep meaning to each card. And also, I love these illustrations. I love this deck. I don't use it as much as I should just because of the size and how hard it is to shuffle, but other than that, this is a deck that honestly does really speak to me because of the symbolism behind it. So this next deck is called the Tarot of the Divine. This is a standard size tarot deck. These cards are thicker. The texture is very different. It has like a, as you can see, like it has like a little bit of like almost like an embroidered kind of texture. This deck is actually really easy to shuffle. The cards are very different. The card stock is very different than any deck that I own. I love this deck. I love the back, the moon phases on it. And this is a deck that is very based off of mythology, folklore, and fairy tales. So we have like Aladdin here, Rapunzel here, as you can see with the tower. The tower card is the Rapunzel tower. So I love this deck because of that. If you are a fan of fairy tale, folklore, mythology, you would absolutely love this deck. The illustrations are stunning. They stuck to more like a more pastel color palette, so it's not, it's vivid but not like super vibrant because they stuck to like pastel colors, yet it gives it a, I love the feel that it adds to it, so I really like this deck. This next deck here, you can see the title on it. This has, again, another smooth texture. This is more on like a thicker cardstock size. It's like in the middle when it comes to shuffling. This is a deck that I was honestly really excited to get, but sadly this is a deck that really disappointed me because there was so much that they could have done. While they stuck to like the major arcana and the suits, they stuck to the theme. When it came to the minor arcana and like the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, all the way to the 10, all they did was literally put like 8 cups for 8 cups, or 7 swords for 7 swords, and it lacked so much. Like if they had just stuck to that theme and not made the rest of the deck pippish, it would have been way better deck, and I would have used it a lot more, because there are a lot of people that like to read with their intuition and not just by the book. And if they know these movies and the theme of these movies, you would be able to get an intuitive reading versus just having 10 coins or 10 swords, things like that. It really lacked for me. It looks like they got lazy. Some people like pip decks. I personally do not like them. While I do know how to read tarot by the book, sometimes I like to rely on both my intuition and by the book. So this did not do it for me. They could have done so much more. This could have been done way better than it was. This next deck here is called El Rey, or El Dios de los Tres, something like that. El Rey de los Dios de los Tres. I'll put it down in the description below. This is a deck that I got in one of my subscription boxes. It was like a tarot subscription box, and the theme was like tiger magic or something. So I was actually really excited to get this deck because of the theme of it. But sadly, I was disappointed again, like the other tarot. I love the fact that they have like the name of the cards in English and in Spanish, and I love how vivid the colors are and the illustrations are. However, like the detail that they put into the major arcana, they did put detail into the minor arcana. Like I have to admit they did. But if you were to read this solely based off of your intuition, like literally you get nothing from these cards. It looks like they just put a whole bunch of random illustrations together that don't make sense, and we're like, okay, we're gonna call this the 2 of coins, okay, we're gonna call this the 2 of swords, okay, we're gonna call this the 3 of cups, and like it just doesn't make sense. So if you were to rely on your intuition, you're not gonna get a pretty accurate reading. This next deck I absolutely love. This is called Britt's Third Eye Tarot. This is a more like petite, smaller deck. I got this one on Etsy. This card, it's like pretty standard to card stock, easy to shuffle, but as you can see, the illustrations are so darn adorable. It looks like illustrations that you would find in like some sort of like colored manga. It's just so cute. I love this deck so much because of these illustrations. I mean, just they're stunning. It's absolutely stunning, and I love the effort that was put in both the major and the minor arcana. Okay, this next tarot deck here, this is the Santa Muerte Tarot. This is a deck that I had been wanting for a very long time. I feel like I say that about every deck, but I swear, like, this is a deck that I've had my eyes on, but I went back and forth about it for a long time until I finally, like, pulled the plunge and I just bought it because I was doing, like, a Loteria reading. And I am so shocked by how attached I got to this deck, because I think it's because of how it has like skeletons, and not only that, but it's very based off of like Hispanic culture, and since that's, you know, a part of me, I feel like that's why I really vibed with it and I really connected with it. I feel like I was reaching down to like my roots, so I really enjoyed this deck a lot. This next tarot deck here is the very first tarot deck that I've ever owned. This is the Gilded Tarot. It came in with this like book called Easy Tarot that I got at Barnes & Noble years and years ago. So this is the deck that I learned with. It's been with me since like 2014, 15. So I've had it for quite a while. This is the oldest deck that I have. And as you can see, it's still very much intact. Like I said, I don't like to casino shuffle, so the cards are in pretty good condition. So I have nothing but good things to say about this deck because this is the deck that I learned with, and this is a deck that I really connect with. For example, I like how the Pentacles, for example, has like the little green element to it, and then like the cups have like the blue, and I just love the detail that went into this deck. This is a deck that, like I said, I learned with, so it was very easy to learn because while it was different from the Rider Waite, which is, I always compare it to the Rider Waite because that's like the most traditional deck, it still has a lot of similarities that I was able to be like, oh, okay, this one is this card, and able to learn a lot faster. Oh, the Deviant Moon Tarot deck, this one right here. This is a very gothic looking deck. It has, the cards are pretty flimsy. They're also very skinny compared to the other cards. This one is one that, like, you're not going to be able to see, like, the minor arcana on the bottom. You're going to have to sort of look at the card and be like, okay, so this is the Two of Cups. It'll tell you the Roman numeral, but that's about it. This is a deck that I actually do not use that often just because of how dark looking it is. A lot of people, when I do readings, they don't want to see that, so I've been saving this for like shadow readings. So if you want like a shadow reading strictly, because it's more on like the more like darker side. Other than that, I don't really like to use this deck, especially when I'm giving readings to new clients, because I don't want to scare them with the sort of like creepy drawings that this deck has. This is the Crystal Visions Tarot. This is a deck that I got on another tarot subscription box that I had. These cards are a little bit more on the flimsy side, standard tarot size. This color palette is more like pastelish, and all of these cards have a very like fantasy looking look to it. There's a lot of like fairies and like dragons and stuff like that. The illustrations are like pretty detailed. However, I wasn't very fond of like, I don't know, I'm not a big fan of like the illustrations and like the whole fairy thing. While I know that some people are, this isn't a deck that I really reach for that often. When I first got it, I put it in front of me so that I can use it to see how I was vibing with it, and I wasn't vibing with it, so I kind of put it away to the side, and I haven't really touched it since. This deck here is called the Cat Tarot. This is a deck that I got, again, for deceased animal readings. This is a deck that I use specifically just for that. I will sometimes occasionally use it on like regular readings. For example, I use it like on a friend because I know that she loves cats, so I did do the reading for her with these. This one, if you are a beginner to tarot and you want to learn by the book, I do not recommend this deck at all because, first of all, the minor arcana is very confusing. It just has like a little picture there. It doesn't even like tell you like which card it is, or you have to sort of like assume like, okay, I think this is a wands card. It just goes by like a little tiny little corner picture there, and it's just really confusing. But if you want to rely intuitively, again, the illustrations are very far off from what the book by the book meanings mean. You know, some of them can be pretty close. For example, like the Three of Swords, but there are some cards that's like, what the heck? This looks nothing like the book meaning, the dictionary meaning to this card. So this is more like solely like intuition based, which is why I like it for these deceased pet card readings, because you're able to get a lot of detail from it, just reading them intuitively for those readings. This deck, the Mystic Mondays Tarot, this is the second tarot deck that I ever have received. This was a gift from my fiance. I kind of basically told him to get it for me for Mother's Day one year, and I loved this deck. This was when I was barely learning how to do tarot, so I was shocked by how much I love this deck. I love the sides. As you can see, the etchings have like that like holographic flexing thing to it, and the etching does chip off quite a bit, and you can see that chipped off from the sides. But other than that, I love this deck. It's very like 80s 90s vibe-ish, very like a retro-y, retro modern-y. You know what I'm talking about. The illustrations aren't very detailed, but this is a tarot deck that was very easy for me to learn, solely based off of like telling stories. Like, okay, we have this card here and she looks like a princess, and it looks like she's trying to fight off some bad guys or something like that. And I was able to grasp the meaning intuitively just by looking at the pictures and telling stories from it, just because of the color scheme, and then the way, even though they were simplistic drawings, I was still kind of like, I kind of got like the gist of it. So I really fell in love with this deck, and this is a deck that I used to use often. I don't use it as often, but like ever since, like now that I pulled it out, I'm like, okay, you know what, this is going back in my like go to, like right in front of me. I have to like do more readings with this deck. The classic Rider Waite Tarot deck. This is a deck that I probably talk about more than any other deck. This is a deck that I actually for a long time did not want, just because I hated the illustrations online. I was like, I am not going to like this deck at all. So I was actually very shocked when I finally got it, and it became one of my go-to favorite decks. Like, I keep it, it's with my go-to favorite decks. Like, I keep it right in my desk. Like, whenever I need to grab a quick tarot deck, it's going to be right in front of me. And I actually really like this deck. This is the classic deck. This is like the #1 deck if you're first learning how to do tarot and you want to learn how to do it by the book. This is going to be the deck to have if you're taking any tarot course. This is usually the deck that they recommend you to have, because it's like the original OG. And if you look up like the meaning to each card, more than likely this is going to be the picture that they have for the tarot card that you're looking up. The next one here is called the Universal Waite deck. As you can see, I'm zooming in on it because it's so tiny. This is like a pocket-sized deck. As you can see, it's tiny. I don't use this deck at all. This is the deck that I got because I was taking a tarot course, and the teacher recommended that we get the Rider Waite deck, and I was like, I'm not going to use that deck. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get one that's cheaper, but that's basically the Rider Waite. And I got this deck, and I never used it other than for the, you know what, I didn't even use it for the course. I ended up using the Modern Witch deck for the course. So I don't like this deck. I don't know. I just don't vibe with it. The Manga Tarot deck. I love this deck because I have recently become very obsessed with anime, and this is a deck that is all like anime looking cards. So I really like this deck. Shockingly, I took it away from my like go-to pile just because I had so many decks in front of me, and I put it away, and now like after looking at it, I'm like, why did I put this deck away? I love this deck. I love the illustrations. I love this deck. I mean, just look at it. There was detail that was put, again, both in the major and the minor arcana, so very cute deck. The Wild Unknown Tarot deck. This is a tarot deck that for a while I was putting off because it was like $40. And then I finally got it because it was on sale on Amazon for like 20 bucks. So I got it, and I was shocked to find that the texture of these cards were like okay. I didn't really like the texture. They literally feel like photograph-ish, you know, when you get like a photograph like printed. That's what it looks like. That's what it feels like. It feels very like not the greatest quality. But other than that, I really do like this deck. Like the illustrations are very simple, but they're so beautiful. This is very nature based, and it is amazing the connection that you can make with these cards. Like that's why so many people rave about this deck, because even though it is a little bit simplistic, there's so, I don't know what sort of brujeria went on with the creator that made this deck, but I feel very connected to these cards, and I get some very detailed, beautiful readings with this deck. This deck here, I think it's called like the Botanica Tarot deck. This is a deck that I got with the Lunarly box. When I first got this deck, I was like, oh my gosh, this deck is so stunning. I mean, just look at the gold backings to it. The cards are pretty thick. It's such good quality. It is a little bit more on like the wider side than most tarot decks. And unfortunately, if you know plants, you're a plant lover and you know all about plants, you might be able to get something out of this. But me not knowing like zip squats about plants, I don't know what this means. I can tell you what it means by the book, but like I said, I like to use my intuition and read it by the book, because that leads to more accurate, detailed readings. I couldn't do that with this deck, so I don't like it. I don't. The Cosmic Slumber Tarot. This is another tarot deck that was created by Liminal 11, the same creators of the Modern Witch deck and the Luna Soul Tarot. The people that make these decks, I swear, even though they're different artists and people that like create them, this company knows how to make tarot decks, at least to my liking anyway. This is another deck that I think is absolutely stunning. The pictures behind it, there's so much like fantasy. It has that dreamy quality that you want, you know, it being the Cosmic Slumber deck. And it's such a beautiful deck. This is another deck that I was constantly reaching for, but I had to put it away because I wanted to switch it up every now and then. But now, again, looking at it, I'm like, I want to take it out. So this deck, I mean, just look at the illustrations. They're absolutely stunning. This is a deck that doesn't matter if you're a beginner or if you're an expert, you will find some use for this deck. The Housewives Tarot deck. This is a deck that I was so happy to get my hands on. I got it for Christmas, and this is a deck that I was looking for a very long time, and I couldn't find it. So when my brother-in-law gave it to me, I was so happy because I have been eyeing this deck. And this deck is absolutely stunning. As you can see, like, there's a different color for each element. We have green for the pentacles, and then we have blue for the cups here. And then I believe a red is going to be for the swords, black is going to be for the major arcana, and then orange is for the wands. So this deck, I love. It has a much lighter quality to the tarot. This has a very like, it's very like so much comedic value and so much humor into the tarot. This is again not a deck that I recommend for beginners if you want to learn by the book, because the illustrations are very very different from what they actually mean, but if you want to rely on your intuition, you can get some pretty funny, interesting messages behind it. So I like this deck a lot. Revelations Tarot. This is another deck that I have been wanting for so long. I love this deck because this is a deck that, yes, the cards are, yes, we see that, Ivy. It's okay. This is a deck that you can read right side up or reversed. And if you flip this card in reverse, the meaning will change. You will see, like, right side up, this person could be happy and you see them getting money. And then when you flip it upside down, you see the person sad and upset and the person is losing money. So you see the what each one means versus when it's right side up or when it's upside down. So this is a very beautiful deck if you're starting to learn how to read them in reverse. And me, I'm a beginner to reading tarot in reverse. I learned right side up. I was learning reverse, and then a lot of people were telling me, like, oh, don't do reverse. But now that I am into it, I want to learn how to do reverse cards. So this is a deck that I can definitely benefit from, and anybody that wants to learn how to read tarot in reverse, they could definitely benefit from this deck. Okay, this tarot was in a box that I received called like Tarot Made Simple or Tarot Made Easy, and this is a deck that came with it. And this is a deck that for some reason, I just didn't connect with it. I think it's because, like, I wanted to keep the deck and I gave the book away in the last giveaway. So I think when I hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm actually going to be giving this deck away to anybody that wants it. So just to qualify, you just have to subscribe and stuff, and I'll post the details when the time arises. But yeah, I don't really use this one at all, so I will be giving it away. I mean, it's a stunning deck, and if you're learning tarot, this is a really good deck to, like, first learn with. So yeah, I'll be giving it away. From the creators of the Modern Witch deck and the Cosmic Slumber deck, we have the Luna Soul deck. This is also made by Liminal 11. Again, a deck that I have been wanting. I love this deck. I love the I don't know what it is about pastel decks that I absolutely love. I love the backings. I love the fact that it's like half sun and then half moon, half day, half night. I love that. I love the illustrations. I love how the people that they have in the pictures look like the cartoons from Bob's Burgers. I love everything about this deck. I love it so much. Yeah, so this is a deck that is a must-have for both beginners and pros alike. This is a very cute deck. Love it. So that is it, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this tarot collection overview. I know it's different from anything that I've done before, but I had to do this just because I finally gathered enough tarot decks, at least to my liking, to actually come up and do this tarot collection. And I will be doing more in the future as I collect more. Actually, I don't think I want to collect more tarot. I think I have enough. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys, liked this video. And if you haven't yet, please consider hitting that subscribe button and turning on that notification bell to be notified when I post. I post video 3 times a week. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays or Saturdays. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!